Hi, this is Dominic from Paphos Life, and in this film we're driving from Stroumbi to Polis down the B7. So let's have the map up. And we're starting off in the back streets of Stroumbi for a change. And then when we hit the B7 we go down to Giolou. And from there we carry straight on to Skoulli. And finally we go through Chrissyhou to get to Polis itself. And having just done the commentary for the Limassol drive I've already published, it's nice to be back on familiar ground. So I'll comment on stuff that I know something about. We're to the right of the B7 at the moment, and I've come a back route from Paphos to get here. I just thought you'd like to see what some of the little side roads are like. All villages in the middle of Paphos have little roads like this. Some of them can be very narrow indeed because they were designed for donkeys when donkeys were the predominant means of transport. And the country around is mainly vineyards. Now we're behind the central part of Stroumbi now. And there's a church up to our left on the hill, which you can't really see here. And when we get out onto the B7, we will be by the supermarket. And there's a sister supermarket to it, Polycarpo they're called, in Paphos. Well, there's two supermarkets in Paphos. One of them's Polycarpo. And the other one's run by our neighbours, Paul and Nat. Hello if you're watching. So here's the B7. And their supermarket's called Paphos, I should say. And they got a lovely dog called Bonnie, who I'm afraid one of our cats, Minxie, seems to try and beat up too often. And Bonnie's such a good temperamental doggy that she lets her get away with it. On the left here, I don't know if you can see it, they've done some uncovering of weeds and all that, but they've uncovered an old bus, which I need to check out at some point. I'm always fascinated by them. I suppose I should check it out before it gets wheeled away somewhere, because there used to be one up near Simu, but that's disappeared. I don't know whether the collectors just wheeled it away in the night or what. Anyway, we're on the B7 now. When it eventually gets finished, the motorway will have rejoined this road back just after Stroumbi where we left, just drove through rather. And there is supposed to be an announcement about the motorway coming by the end of August, saying what's happening. But there has been very little done in the last few months, if anything. But we're not talking about that now. We're on the B7. We're coming down to the bit which collapsed a couple of years ago, and this road had I couldn't call it a diversion. It was more of a little, not even, it was like a hairpin bend just coming up. There was a diversion to start with, but the locals complained too much about it because it took them too long to get to Paphos or Polis, depending on which way they were coming from. So they then put a temporary road in which people could drive past. But now it's all finished. And on the left, can you make it out from here? I'm not sure. You'll also see what's the abandoned village of Filetra, halfway up the hillside. And it was abandoned because the hill kept trying to come down on top of it. This was the bit of the road that they replaced, just here. And it hasn't really been tested by a very wet winter yet, but hopefully that's here to stay. And if you want to get to Velletri, you just turn left there. It's a bit of a dusty road, but it will get you there. And if you carry on through the village of Old Velletri, you'll go up the hill to the village of New Velletri. And if you carry on through that, you'll end up on the road to Paphos. But we're now coming down into Giolou. Now, when we moved to Giolou, there was one coffee shop here on the main road. There was probably one in the village centre as well, which is above the main road. But now they seem to be popping up all over the places. There's another 3 appeared, which just goes to show how much the Cypriots like their coffee. When we needed our COVID, what's it, vaccines we got here? I can't remember, but we had to come to the health centre in Miliou, not Miliou, Giolou. All the villages around had to come here for jabs, I think it was. No, it wasn't jabs. There was a reason we had to come here, though. I can't remember what it was. Because we had our jabs down at in the Paphos Centre by Palio Electrica, whatever it's called, near Kennedy Square. I remember because the queues were horrendous. Anyway, I don't know why I'm going back to that sort of nightmare time. But here's one of the coffee houses on the left, and there's another coffee house on the right. And we just passed a coffee house. There used to be a little farm on the left that had rabbits in it. And much to my daughter's disgust, they replaced it with a coffee house. She didn't really think what happened to the rabbits at the end of their life, but there you go. Little girls don't tend to think that. Well, she's not a little girl anymore, but she was at the time. Oh, speaking of animals, sounds like one of the cats who's asleep on the sofa behind me is just waking up. So if you hear a meow in a minute, that'll be Mark. So we've gone through Giolou, and now we're going to come up to, or come down rather, to the village of Miliou, though I'm not sure exactly how you pronounce that. Now it's interesting, this part, because though there's a hill to your left, that's not the hill that goes up to the Akamus Ridge. There's actually another valley between the two, and it's a very beautiful valley. Yet to a lot of people they won't even know it exists, purely and simply because there's another hill in front of it. But the roads that lead from the B7 to the Paphos to Polis road up above go through some very nice countryside indeed. And so if you see a proper signpost on the road, follow it up, and guaranteed you'll be able to get up to the next road as well, and you'll have a lovely drive. And if you want more help getting through this sort of countryside, you should check out our road trip ebooks on Amazon. The first 2, especially the first one, covers this area and the bits in between. There's the other coffee place I was telling you about. That's a chain, I think that one is. They seem to be popping up all over the place. And while I'm here, if you like our films, please do subscribe to our YouTube channel and click the notifications bell, etc. Also, keep an eye on our website, paphoslife.com. because we publish loads of articles. We've been going since 2016, and in the blog section there you'll find hundreds of interesting things about the areas we drive through. There's obviously been a fire there recently on the right. There's a little quarry here. Yeah, so YouTube channel. Also, we have a Facebook page, Paphos Life, and a Facebook chat group called Paphos Chat, as well as pan-Cypriot chat group called Cyprus Chat. And if you really want to help us out financially, go to our Buy Me a Coffee page on buymeacoffee.com/Paphos Life and chuck us a couple of coffees. That would be greatly appreciated. We just had the turning for Miliou there. And up here is the turning for Simu on the right. And it's worth pointing out that the hill up on the right here, beyond that hill, is the Evretu Reservoir. And around here, if you're driving, you might turn to your passenger and ask them if they farted or not, because there is a very nasty smell which is always here. And it's not some farmer who's got a bowel problem. It's actually a sulphur spring that's just down. It's actually passed in the little valley before Miliou. And but the smell seems to appear there, and it's bad. But it doesn't last for long. But every time we go past there, it's sort of like, I'll wind the window up. But no, I did actually go to the sulphur spring. There's an article, a blog article on that on our site. And the first time I went there, it hadn't rained for ages, and so it's completely harmless. But I went there I took our daughter there after it had rained once. And the idea was we go for a nice walk in the countryside, have a packet of crisps and a drink wherever we decide to sit down, and then go. But we couldn't. It just smelt so badly at the source of the sulphur spring. Now, turning left here takes you to Pano and Cato Accordalia. It's a very nice drive, that is. And if you carry up there, you'll eventually be in Kafikas. Now, you can't see it from this road, but to the left of you now is possibly the most spectacular gorge in Cyprus. It is stunning, but it's virtually, I mean, the only way you can really get a good look at it is in using a drone. Or if you're prepared to do an awful lot of bushwhacking. But just here on the left is a little entrance which takes you a bit of the way up it. But it's very inhospitable. That road we just seen there, that goes up to Chrissyhou, and there's another lovely gorge there and a waterfall, etc., which is what Chrissyhou is famous for these days. It's a very interesting village to explore, Chrissyhou. I've done a couple of articles on that. It had some like Cyprus's first casino in it, which was basically a room with a couple of tables. I mean, don't get excited and expect to go in there and see some ancient fruit machines or anything. It's not like that. Now coming into Skoulli. I'm not sure about the pronunciation, I'm afraid. There are lots of little villages around here, though. But we're staying on the B7. And there is a fairly decent track now. It used to be very rough, but it's not so bad now. That goes along the rim of the Evretu Reservoir. And you can get to that by taking a turning right here. You probably still want to be in a 4x4 just to play it safe, but that's where you go for that. Nice restaurant on the right here. And you also see between Stroumbi and Polis little stalls on the side of the road with bags of oranges. That's because there are a lot of orange groves here on this route. And they'll either be $1.50 a bag or €2 a bag. And they're all sort of like, well, just stick your money in the box. Very trusting. Now, after this little supermarket here, if you turn right, you'll be going up to the Evretu Dam itself, or the villages around Lissos, which is a very nice place to explore. And you can get to Paphos Forest that way as well. I should always add warnings, because if you look on the map about Paphos Forest, you think, oh, that'd be a nice pleasant drive. And some of the routes there, they will be nice and pleasant, but they will go on for like hours before you get to your destination. And after the first half hour, you might be thinking, oh, it's not as pleasant as I thought it was, because the scenery does get very monotonous after a while. It's the sort of route you'll do once. Anyway, the hills that we've been driving through have flattened out a bit now. To your left you will get the Akamas eventually, and to your right you'll have Limni Mine eventually. Be aware also that they often have speed cameras along this route, mobile ones. If you ever see a portable speed camera sign leaning against a wall or a road sign, then guaranteed 100% there will be a speed camera in the back of a van somewhere up ahead. I was surprised at one thing I was surprised about when I was driving in Limassol, and you know these nasty lights that they, cameras rather, that they got on some of the traffic lights in Paphos. Well, they have them in Limassol as well, but they don't just have them on roundabouts. They had them in some cases just on bits of road so they could get you speeding. And I don't know what the fine for that would have been. But I know it's something like €300 for going for a red light. So, but the days of carefree driving without getting into trouble are over in Cyprus. I remember when we first moved here, when we first went on holiday rather, it was just like the Wild West, the roads were. I mean, people would just, if there were no cars coming, they would ignore any red light. And it was anarchy. I have to say I did enjoy driving, but that's only because that's the kind of weird person I am. Well, anyway, on the left, you've got the village of Chrissyhou, and there's a mosque there, which is nice, and there's also a well-preserved watermill. I think in order to actually get inside the watermill, you probably need to speak to the Mukhtar, though, who'll sort you out a key. And beyond the village, any local who needs to know, is where the Chrissyhou Polis Green Point is. Turning for it just up here on the left. And on the right here, there's an old graveyard of Turkish Cypriot. I did an article on that a few years ago. And if you're adventurous, there's a nice off-road track from Chrissyhou to Polis to our left. It's not particularly hazardous as off-road goes. I mean, you couldn't compare it to like going over the Akamas. But if you fancy a change from the B7, that's the place to go. So the cat's making up again. And a lot of these fields will be harvested soon. They have at least 2 harvests a year in Cyprus for the wheat. It always throws us when we see them doing it in March and April as well. Vineyards only get harvested about now actually, in September in some cases. Last year there was a problem because of the COVID backlog. There'd been such a surplus of grapes that the Sodat brewery just said, look, we don't need any grapes this year. So the wine growers must have suffered terribly in that, but this year all seems to be normal. Now we're entering Polis itself. In the actual film we drove all the way up to Aphrodite's Baths, but I'm not going to show you that whole route in this film because I've shown you that route in from Polis to Aphrodite's Baths fairly recently already. So I'll stop fairly soon. But I do like this route. It's a very nice journey. Takes to get from Stroumbi to Polis 20 minutes. So to drive from Polis to Paphos, well, to the centre of Paphos on the B7, you need to allow a good 40 minutes. Basically, that's to the centre of Paphos. But it's worth it if you're holidaying on the south coast and you want to see what the north coast is like. It's a completely different atmosphere, and they're lovely beaches here. It's more laid back, and it's well worth a visit. As I said before, if you need any help, check out our road trip ebooks on Amazon, because they are designed to help you out. That's what I wrote them for. And on that bombshell, we'll say thank you for watching and take care, and we'll see you in the next film. Cheers.